Good evening, and thank you for joining this live virtual telephone town hall meeting hosted by the Regional Transportation District, also known as RTD. I'm Roger, and I'll be your moderator tonight as we have a conversation with RTD Director Vince Buzek, who represents District J. Now, District J includes the cities of Westminster, North Glen, Federal Heights, portions of Western Thornton, and portions of unincorporated Adams and Jefferson counties. We also have agency staff joining Director Buzek to answer your questions, and they'll introduce themselves during the call. Tonight we'll be covering several topics, including customer safety initiatives, RTD's fare study and equity analysis, current recruitment efforts, and the next steps for Reimagine RTD. This is your opportunity to share your thoughts about RTD and ask questions. If this is your first time on a virtual telephone town hall, here's how it works. To ask a question, just press *3 on your telephone keypad, and you'll be transferred to an operator who will take down some basic information and get you in the queue. Once the operator has your information, you can listen to the conversation until it's your turn, and then when I call your name, please repeat your question for our live audience. We want to answer as many questions as we can tonight, so please be brief when it is your turn. If you're participating online at rtd-denver.com/town hall, you can ask a question or take part in polls directly from the streaming player. And folks on the phone, if you want to view the slide deck, just head over to our YouTube page. In addition to answering questions live, we'll be asking for survey questions during the call, and I'll explain that process to you later. It's now my pleasure to introduce District J Director Vince Buzek. Thank you for joining us tonight, Director. Go ahead.
Thank you, Roger, and good evening to everybody out there. Thanks for joining the conversation tonight. As Roger indicated, I am the director for District J. He told you the areas that I represent. It's a pretty big area, about 200,000 people. I've been on the board in this capacity for 3.5 years. The last 2 years, I served on the executive committee as the board secretary, and this year I am the chairman of the board of directors for RTD. Some of the things that I'm focusing on this year as we move forward is the Reimagine RTD process, which you'll hear a little bit more about later on in the presentation. In particular, the system optimization plan that's going to be coming before the board in the next month. And part of that, I want to ensure that not only are the transit-dependent populations being properly served, but that service is maintained throughout the entire region so that people can get to employment centers that have typically moved from downtown areas out into more suburban areas. So we need to make sure that service remains robust throughout the entire region. I'm also interested in and working on our commuter rail reliability. I'm sure many of you have seen news stories about runs being dropped on the A line and other commuter rail lines, and we're working really hard to fix that and make that a better situation. I'm also focused on safety and security as we move into the summer months, and we've got a fare-free August coming up, and want to make sure that everybody is comfortable and safe as they ride our services. I'm also focused on no and low emission vehicle integration, electric buses, and how we make them work. We've got 17 of them coming hopefully sometime next year. We also run one of the state's largest electric vehicle fleets on our mall shuttle, the 16th Street Mall electric buses. With these new buses coming in, they're going to be put into typical service, revenue service, and so working on what that looks like, how we make it work, and how we keep moving along those lines. I'm excited to answer your questions and share important updates with you. Again, to ask a question, press *3 or enter your question or comment online. And Roger, before we dive into the first topic, I'd like to learn a little bit about the folks who have joined us tonight, so let's ask our first survey question if we can.
Absolutely, Director. As Director Buzek just mentioned, we'd like to learn a little bit about those of you joining us tonight. It's easy to participate. All you need to do is use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response, and if you're participating online, just click or type your response. So here's that question. How frequently do you ride RTD services? Press 1 for every day. Press 2 for once or twice a week. Press 3 for once or twice a month. Press 4 if you ride just a few times per year. And then press 5 if you do not currently ride RTD. Please record your vote. We'll share the results with you in just a moment. And again, if you have a question or comment, Kathy's standing by, so just press *3 on your telephone keypad. And if you're participating online at rtd-denver.com/town hall, just enter your question from the streaming player. There has been a lot of news coverage about safety concerns in the Denver metro area. Director Buzek alluded to it a little bit in his opening remarks. I'd like to ask Steve Martingano, the interim chief of RTD's Transit Police Division, to introduce himself and talk a little bit about what RTD is doing to help improve safety on transit and at RTD stations and bus stops. Steve, welcome.
Thanks, Roger, and thanks everyone that's listening. Again, my name is Steve Martingano. I'm the interim police chief for the RTD Transit Police Division. I've been with RTD for 6.5 years, but I've been in law enforcement for 29 years. So we've been hearing lately from our customers about concerns, especially about inappropriate behavior they are seeing around their cities lately. You know, as more and more people are using transit again, the workplace is coming back to the office, or just going on a night out of town, or maybe an Avalanche game coming up here for Stanley Cups. Safety and security is definitely a top priority for RTD. Every day, RTD staff works hard to make sure that customers get to their destination safely. You know, one of the areas of concern is unwanted activities at the transit areas, especially the Denver Union Station. So in April, with collaboration with the City and County in Denver, RTD announced some security enhancement that's going to go to the bus concourse, which is the bus terminal underneath the rail platforms. In the short term right now, we're doing things like changing lighting, we're replacing lighting, and also better illuminating the areas. Certain entrance and exit points are going to be converted to emergency exits. This will allow for better pedestrian flow. And then, you know, our cleaning crew has been out there and really deep cleaning and making the area as comfortable as possible for when you come and visit and take out transportation for your daily commutes. That's short term. Right now, this is a long-term project, though. In the next 12 to 16 months, the bus concourse will be converted to a paid fare area. And that's going to restrict access to only those who are using the buses to commute. This is going to involve a redesign of the area, and it's expected to cost anywhere from $10 to $15 million. You know, we recognize that these are expensive upgrades, and under one of our strategic priorities, financial success, RTD takes very seriously the management of all financial resources, and this project is no exception. So what we're going to do is RTD is planning to reinvest funds from the return of the approximately $29 million credit risk premium, which was part of the original investment into Union Station. We're going to use that money to implement and construct design improvements, to enhance the customer experience when utilizing the station.
Director, there's an awful lot going on down at Denver Union Station. How can customers stay up to date on all these changes?
You bet. And because of the ever-changing dynamic down there, RTD has launched a web page dedicated to providing updates on the facility enhancements at Denver Union Station, or DUS as we refer to it. That web page is rtd-denver.com, and you can find the information under our project page or by searching Restoring DUS. Customers can also sign up for a newsletter on the website. And in addition to the enhancements at Denver Union Station, RTD is making other changes to ensure customers are safe when traveling. And Chief, would you like to talk about those changes?
Yeah, absolutely. In March, I became the interim police chief, and the very first thing I wanted to do was to change our police agency into a more proactive unit. So we broke ourselves up into 4 sectors. So we have a team that's dedicated to bus, another team dedicated to rail. We have a community engagement sergeant, as well as a team that's dedicated to mental health and homeless outreach, and we call them impact teams. For those that don't know, RTD was the very first public transportation agency in the country that brought mental health clinicians onto our staff, and we put them in a co-responder unit. Our clinicians currently ride with our police officers, and they go out and assist individuals that are experiencing mental health episodes. We also won a federal grant. We hired a homeless outreach coordinator. Also with that, we employ secondary employment officers. Right now, we currently have contracts with Denver, Aurora, as well as Thornton PD. And in probably the first phases, most of our customers see is our RTD contracted security team. We currently have a contract with Allied Universal with enough hours that allows us to hire 295 security personnel to be out there on our systems. So these changes, as well as reaching out and partnerships with local police, we're really helping RTD quickly respond to customer safety issues.
Sometimes we get calls from customers who wonder why the commuter rail lines, including both the A and G lines, have armed security on each train, but light rail lines do not always have an officer or one of our private security personnel traveling along. Can you talk about why that is?
Yeah, Roger, that's a great question, one we get every day. So the reason that is the Federal Railroad Administration, also known as the FRA, requires a second crew member to be present on all commuter rail vehicles. That includes the A line to the airport, the G line to Arvada, the B line to Westminster, as well as the N line to Thornton. But they do not require a second crew member to be on our light rail vehicles. So while we don't actually have security personnel on every single light rail vehicle trip, we are utilizing our rail impact team as well as our security personnel, and they are out there on platforms as well as trains checking fares and ensuring customers are traveling safely. I will tell you, though, the most important tool we do have is our RTD Transit Watch app. That's a free app that's both available on Apple and Android platforms. It allows customers to report security and safety concerns easily and discreetly. And for those individuals that don't have the ability to download an app, you could go ahead and call our transit police at 303-299-2911. So whether you're utilizing the app or calling on that phone number of 303-299-2911, that will go to one of our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week police communications dispatch centers. Only thing I ask is please be as specific as possible when reporting a situation. Include your location and description of any persons involved. And just remember, every time you submit an incident report, you are helping our team not only resolve situations, but also providing information that helps us determine where we should be focusing our resources.
Thank you, Steve. Again, you can download the Transit Watch app on both your Apple and Android smartphones. And if you're like my mom and don't have a smartphone, you can reach RTD's Transit Police at 303-299-2911. Before we take your questions, here's the answer to our first survey question. We asked, how frequently do you ride RTD services? And 42% of you do not currently ride RTD. 19% ride a few times per year, and 15% ride once or twice a week or once or twice a month. We certainly appreciate our customers choosing to take transit. We know it's environmentally friendly and helps reduce pollution and congestion. And for those of you that don't currently ride transit, RTD really is working hard to improve services. So give us a try. All right, let's get to our questions. We're going to start with Mark on the phone. Go ahead, Mark.
Hi. I guess it was a two-part question. The first part is, we noticed that since the COVID began back in 2020, we see the increase of drug use and people that are migrating towards RTD. It's no longer just at Union Station, but it's also outlying into other areas. I take the light rail from DTC to Thornton, and I see it continually. And I was wondering how they're combating that issue, and as well, are we hindering or are we helping these people? Because not everybody who is in that position are bad people. They're just doing bad things and got caught up in whatever they've got caught up in. We see the epidemic that's taking place in this country today, not just here. I want to find out what you guys are going to do to help combat that.
Mark, this is again Steve Martin, the Interim Police Chief. That's a great question, and it's more than just COVID that this is occurring. For those that don't know, there was a legislative change that made felony narcotics are now a misdemeanor. So that has obviously changed the jailing abilities when contacting individuals that are doing harder substance drugs. So what we are doing, we're doing pretty much a two-pronged approach. The very first thing we're doing, like I had mentioned earlier, with our mental health clinicians, our homeless outreach coordinators, as well as the cities and the counties, we are contacting individuals that we're finding that are utilizing our platforms, our bus stops, as well as our parking rides that are not intended for public transportation purposes. We're contacting them, advising them of areas of support and need. There's a lot of organizations out there that will help individuals that are unhoused or that may have drug dependencies. So we are trying to direct them to those programs. We do that as much as we can, but then when we start seeing the same individuals over and over and over again, we then have to go to more of an enforcement-based policing style, right? Because we definitely know we can't arrest our way out of this issue, But there are individuals that do not want the support that is out there, but they also can't be doing criminal behaviors on our properties. So again, Denver is a perfect case on this. They bring the wellness Winnie, they bring all these resources down to Union Station. When individuals don't want to take part of all those resources, we then go to arrest. In the last 4 months, we have arrested over 1,200 people within the Union Station area, not just the RTD station itself, but the outlying blocks and everything else. So it's a two-pronged approach. It seems to be working. We are really getting people that want the support to those places, and those that don't, then we have to obviously, again, go more criminal aspect of it. So.
All right, let's hear from Richard next. Richard, go ahead.
Hi there. This question's to Director Buzek. And it is, when was the last time you used an RTD bus or train, and how was your experience?
Thanks for that question. And let's see, let me think. How about this morning? I took the 11:12 N-line train to Denver Union Station because I had to go to RTD headquarters on Blake Street for some business. Took the 12:26 back. My experience, I ride the N-line frequently. It was great. It was on time, clean, comfortable, and efficient. While I was down there, I also took the opportunity to walk through the Denver Union Station bus concourse that we've been talking a bit about, and I can tell you that Chief Martingano's efforts and his team's efforts are taking hold, and the concourse was clean and neat and as expected. So anyway, short answer, took it today, and I take it frequently. Thanks.
Thank you, Director. Really good question so far. Thank you. As a reminder, to ask a question on the phone, just press *3, and you'll be transferred to Kathy, who's waiting, and we'll take down some information and get you in the queue. And if you're online at rtd-denver.com/town hall, just enter your question on the streaming player. We're going to move on to our next topic for tonight's call, and that is RTD's Fair Study and Equity Analysis. Bill Soroy is with us this evening. Bill, would you introduce yourself and provide an update?
I'd be happy to, Roger. Again, my name is Bill Soroy. I'm the Senior Manager of Transit-Oriented Communities in the Planning Department in RTD. I've been in RTD nearly 18 years, so I've been around the block a little bit, but happy to be involved and engaged in this. I'm part of the project management team for this study, along with a few other folks in planning and civil rights. One of the reasons why we're doing this, I think over the last few years, and particularly lately, we've heard a lot from our customers about our fares being too expensive and too complicated of a system to kind of navigate through. So our general manager, Deborah Johnson, asked staff to kind of develop a comprehensive approach to address the issue. So we initiated this fare study last year and really got going kind of this year. It's really related to our one of our strategic priorities of customer excellence. Our focus here is trying to make sure that we get high quality customer service and really have this study identify what are our customer pain points and really try to respond to those. This part of this effort is really to understand, like I said, the customer's preferences, including and how we can improve our system. To date, we've hosted a couple public meetings, one in English and one in Spanish. We've also developed a few customer feedback panels and had some community engagement. So we've actually done quite a bit of outreach thus far. We've also initiated it in late April and closed it in early May. A survey, which we invited folks to give their feedback on our current system. We got over 2,400 responses, excuse me. And the survey was, available English and Spanish, as well as other languages, which, we know our customers speak. So it was a very comprehensive effort on our part.
Bill, Vince Buzek here. Is the community engagement for the fare study over now, and where are we? Where is RTD currently in this process?
Thank you, Director. No, we're just getting going. We've kind of reached that first milestone, which, like I said, was focused on getting feedback on the current system. What are people's likes and dislikes about it? We've kind of wrapped that up this past month. This month, we've started a process to look at here, what are some of the conceptual options that we're going to be looking at in terms of changing fares, looking at different types of discounts, maybe consolidating discounts, looking at our past programs and what we could do to potentially improve those. So we're in that process, and we expect that this process will last through 2023. So kind of this next phase over the next couple of months, where we focused on those kind of higher level options, and then in the late summer and early fall, we'll be focused on developing some concrete alternatives which we can take to the public, which show what are the impacts to revenue and ridership if we make certain changes related to discounts or past programs or what have you, and just to get some feedback in terms of what people think, because there are trade-offs. There are trade-offs in any kind of change that we would make to our fare system. So that will be happening in the fall. And then as we get to the end of the year and early next year, we'll be hopefully coming up with a preferred alternative for our board to consider, and then to take out to the public in the early part of next year for public input and feedback. And that would then, based on that input, we may do some changes to that, and then ultimately take any proposed permanent fare changes to the board in next spring, so that people can understand where we're going. And so we would be developing a refined list of those alternatives, like I said, towards the end of this year, with kind of that preferred list at the beginning of next year.
That's great, Bill. Thanks for that. Where can people learn more about this process as it continues?
The best place for people to go to is our website. We have a dedicated website to the fare study, and you can find that at www.rtd-denver.com/fare study, or if you just go to the RTD website and put fare study in the search engine, it'll take you right there. We as a reminder, we do have offer a variety of discounts to our customers related to seniors, youth, people with disabilities, and so you can find that information as well as information about our LIVE program also on our RTD's website at www.rtd-denver.com/fares-passes/discount fares. So there's some good information for you in terms of where to find it on our website.
One thing we don't do is make those URLs easy to remember. I think if you go to the website, rtd-denver.com, there's a place where you can search, or even probably in Google, Bill, right? If they search RTD fares, I'll bet they get to the right place.
Right. I think I agree with you, Roger. That'd be a much simpler approach.
Well, thank you very much for that information. Let's take a moment to ask our second survey question. Again, for callers, use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response. And if you're online, just click or type your response. Here's that question. Do you believe that RTD fares should be more affordable, even if it results in less service? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, and press 3 if you're not sure. Go ahead and record your vote. We'll share the results in a few minutes, and we're going to go back to questions and hear from Jesse next. Go ahead. Jesse, go ahead. You're live with our audience. All right. Well, Jesse, press *3 again if you were away from your phone. Preston, next up. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. My name's Preston. I live in Westminster, and I'm along the US 36 corridor, and that's what my question is about. Ever since 2020 and the whole COVID incident, we've seen reduced services with the Flatiron Flyer and the rapid bus along the US 36 corridor, and I was wondering what plans exist to restore services in the short term, and in the midterm, are there any plans to expand those services or other services along that transit corridor? Are there any plans to make that more like a bus rapid transit system proper rather than more of an express bus that it is today? And in the long term, has there been any progress about light rail installation between Denver and Boulder?
Preston, thank you for your
and
question.
Preston,
this is Sage Thornbrew. This is Sage Thornbrew in the Service Development Department at RTD. I'll answer your short-term to mid-term question as best I can, then I'll pass it off to Director Buzek to answer regarding light rail. We are hopeful about restoring US 36 service. Right now, as is well documented, we are faced with a major driver shortage, and what that basically means for corridors like US 36, where there already is a significant amount of service, we have to be equitable about how we bring back service with the drivers that we do slowly acquire, meaning that since there already is so much service along the US 36 corridor, it's hard to justify bringing back even more service, even though we know there is demand, because there are other parts of the district that have little or no service at all. So we're very well aware of the needs of the people like yourself up in Westminster and everywhere along the US 36 corridor, and we know that there is a need for more service there, but we have to be equitable about how we restore service. So very well noted, and again, I'll pass it off to Director Buzek to answer your question regarding rail.
Great, thanks for that, Sage, and good question about the rail. And just so you know, it's not light rail over there; it's commuter rail, and there's a significant difference. But nonetheless, the answer is the same. So back in 2021, I guess. So just last year, the board approved an $8 million feasibility study to look at completion of that Northwest Rail, the B line, up to Longmont on a what we call a limited service kind of run. It's three runs in the morning, 3 runs in the evening rush hour, back and forth. So the study is underway. Probably going to take I guess another 18 months or so. It's going to take a look at ridership projections and feasibility. Work with Burlington Northern Santa Fe, who owns the right of way, to see what it looks like from their end, and letting us use their right-of-way and tracking and all that kind of cost. So that study is underway. That's going to be really determinative about what we do with rail going onto the Northwest. It's a peak service study is what it was. I couldn't think of that for a moment. But, yeah, we're working on that, and we've already hired a consultant who's begun their work to look at the feasibility of that. So that's the answer on the rail, and thanks for the question.
All right, let's go to a question submitted online from Caleb. He asks, how does RTD define equity? I'd like to take that. Bill?
I'll take that one, Roger. Thanks. Equity is a core principle of the RTD mission as we provide transit across the metro area. And I think, one of the guideposts that we use is the Civil Rights Act, and specifically the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act and the Executive Order 12898, which is environmental justice. And really what that really looks at is that there's equitable distribution of service and benefits across the region, and in terms of making sure that there is availability of service for people without regard to race, color, national origin, or low income status. So every time we do a fare study, or even do change our service, we change it 3 times a year. We look at how those disadvantaged populations are impacted, and making sure that they are not, disproportionately impact or have a disparate impact or disproportionately burdened more than people that aren't part of those populations. So that's a big effort on our part, and again, that's a primary fundamental element, particularly of the fare study.
Thank you, Bill. For those of you that joined us late, good evening. This is a live virtual telephone town hall hosted by the Regional Transportation District. I'm Roger, and your moderator, and we're talking with District J Director Vince Buzek. We also have agency staff here to answer your questions. And as a reminder, you can press *3 on your telephone keypad if you have a question or comment. Or if you're participating online, just enter your comment directly below the streaming player. So let's hear the results of our second survey question. We asked, do you believe that RTD fares should be more affordable, even if it results in less service. And 61% of you said no, 22% aren't sure, and 17% said yes. We appreciate that input, and we'll have a couple more questions here later in the call. Let's go to Margaret next. Margaret, go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay. From on 88th and Quebec, going to Quebec, 88th to Quebec, you've got FedEx, you've got other jobs there, job sites there, and I'm saying I was wondering, when are you all going to end up putting some kind of bus or some kind of transport to FedEx? That's where I used to work. I no longer work there because it's too far to walk from way over there by the flea market up that way, especially at night when I get out at 10 at night, 10:30 at night from FedEx. I have to move to another site now, but you don't know how many people have to go through hardships because there's no way to get to work, especially in the wintertime. It is bad. I was wondering when you're going to RTD is going to put something over there, if ever.
Hi, Margaret. This is Sage Thornbrew again. Yeah, this is Sage Thornbrew in Service Development. I can't say that I'm totally familiar with the area that you're referring to, 88th and Quebec, but if it is indeed 88th Ave that you're referring to, we are aware, again, of the needs of these semi-low density corridors. Unfortunately, even prior to the pandemic, a lot of areas within the district were experiencing really low ridership, and a lot of that has to do with how cities are developed in their current progress in that development. When you have such low density and you have fixed route transit going to these locations, it's really hard to get a lot of people on the bus. So as the areas continue to build out and become more dense, and you get more housing out there and more business, then it becomes much easier to justify providing service. But in areas like yours, if I'm understanding yours correctly, it's just so low density. It's strip malls and things like that, where we know there's a need for it, but finding the right way to meet that need is a challenge, especially, again, when you take into account issues like driver shortages and equity. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you, Sage. Here's a
and
question
Margaret,
on...
I can
go ahead.
Roger, I can follow up a little bit on that as well. We had a similar situation here in District J on the north at 144th and I-25, where there's an Amazon distribution center. And at the time that Amazon distribution center opened, RTD bus service ended at 120th and I-25. So there was no way for employees at a huge Amazon distribution center to get to work. And so RTD worked with the Transportation Management Organization for the North I-25 area, and under the leadership of its former executive director, Karen Stewart, worked to get a special flex ride service put in. And it was only possible because the counties and locals chipped in, and there was a several $1 million grant that they were able to secure to help that happen. But as a result of that, with some creative thinking by that transportation management organization, they were able to get service from that 120th and I-25 up to 144th and I-25. So sometimes you have to think out of the box and make those things happen, and we're always willing to do that. Thanks, Roger.
You betcha. Thank you. Here's a question from online. Stephen asks, what's up with all the train horns? I thought this was a quiet zone. Who wants to take that?
Well, Vince Buzek is here. I guess I can take that because I'm sorry. Was that Bill?
Yeah, go ahead, Vince. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we had this obviously when the N line opened in 2020. We had a lot of horns and people complaining, and yeah, we generally do have quiet zones around our trains. to lessen the noise impacts in the neighborhoods that are close to the tracks. But there are times when RTD needs to and is required to sound their horns. And this could be if there are work crews on or near the tracks, if there's an emergency that the operator believes exists or could exist, if the operator sees something that is, of concern, the operator can sound horns. Or sometimes there are issues with gate arm timing and something called positive train control that all of our trains have. And I know recently on the end line there was some work at 100th, and where the end line crossing at 100th, and they were working on the signal and the crossing gates, so the trains had to blow their horns there. So often there's ongoing work that takes place, and so when that happens, the trains are required to sound those horns. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Safety always comes first here at RTD, so we appreciate that additional information. Before we move on to our next topic, we're going to ask our third survey question. For those on the phone, use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response and click or enter your response if you're participating online. The third question is, what factor would increase your likelihood of taking RTD services the most? Press 1 for more affordable fares. Press 2 for a system where you feel safe. Press 3 for more frequent bus and train service. And press 4 for more service coverage in your area. While you're recording your vote, I'm going to ask Director Buzek to introduce our next topic. Director, you may be muted.
You're absolutely right, Roger. I gave a brilliant answer. So anyway, we're talking about people power next, and it was alluded to in one of the prior answers to a question. At RTD, we've got a workforce of over 3,500 employees. Positions include bus and rail operators, mechanics, administrative staff, and many, many more. One of our strategic priorities is employee ownership, and through this we seek to attract and retain a highly skilled and engaged workforce. It's often said that we are people who move people, and to help keep our transit system reliable, we are hiring for key positions. So if you out there, or a friend or family member, are looking for a meaningful career in public service, consider applying for one of RTD's open positions. RTD is hiring for positions across the agency, including bus and rail operators, body shop technicians, and mechanics. Many positions are also eligible for a $4,000 signing bonus.
Director, what are some of the other benefits that you're excited about that maybe you could share with the folks that might be considering joining RTD?
Thanks, Roger. Yeah, we have a new collective bargaining agreement signed by the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU, Local 1001, and RTD, and we signed that in February of this year. This new collective bargaining agreement offers additional benefits to employees with positions that are covered under the union, including operators and mechanics. RTD offers competitive wages, education allowances, an excellent retirement savings plan, and paid in-house training programs, to name a few. What you may not know is that RTD also offers an extensive training program where you can learn to operate a train. If you're interested in driving a bus, we can help you get a commercial driver's license, or CDL. Individuals interested in joining RTD are encouraged to review open positions on RTD's website, www.rtd-denver.com/careers. If you don't see a position you're interested in now, check back often because we always have something new. Roger, why don't we pause now for a couple more questions that I see.
You bet. Let's go to Tony next. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, hi. I live across from the Westminster parking ride, the garage. And I'm just wondering what can be done to step up security there, since it's still being used for a racer car meetup and a raceway to showcase your exhaust. And it's very, very loud throughout the neighborhood. You guys have shut down the fourth floor, so people aren't going to the top and spinning their cars around anymore. But people are still going up to the third floor. So is there anything in the works to make it a paid only garage or something like that, or speed bumps added?
And Chief Martingano, why don't we start with you on this one?
Yeah, thanks for the question again. Steve Martingano, Interim Chief of Police. So we did look for speed bumps and such, the cost on that, and also the placement of it. We felt that it would have caused more damage to vehicles of customers that are utilizing it for the correct purposes. And also, again, the cost to put the speed bumps would have been pretty expensive to do so, and we just didn't feel like that was a necessary step to stop what's happening a few hours at night. So I did close the fourth floor. We put up some fencing and all. This is the first I'm hearing that it's continuing, so I apologize that this was not reported to us. So we'll reach out to Westminster PD. They've been a great partner and really been assisting us. And we've also been utilizing our cameras to see when it's happening to send our resources immediately. So we will look into you, and I do know that obviously you're no longer on the line here, but if someone is able to get your information, I'll reach out to you to find out dates and times when you're seeing this, and I'll work to make sure that it gets corrected.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Thanks for that answer, Chief. And that's the first I've heard of that as well. And I know that Westminster Mayor Nancy McNally is a huge advocate of RTD and a great partner with us on these issues. So I'll reach out to her as well, and maybe we can get something taken care of.
All right, let's take a question from Santiago online. He asks, what do jobs pay at RTD? Some of these jobs that you referenced.
Thanks for that question. So we've got quite a range of jobs. And for example, the bus and rail operators under this new collective bargaining agreement, the starting hourly rate is $24 per hour. We also have openings for body shop technicians, and they start at $27.98 an hour. Our service and cleaning staff have starting salaries of $18.42 an hour. And our public safety dispatcher, which we need several, has a starting salary of $53,000 per year. You can go to our website. Again, it's www.rtd-denver.com/careers and get more information there as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Director. Here are the results of our third survey question. We asked, what factor would increase your likelihood of taking RTD services the most? And 44% said more service in my area. 22% said more frequent bus and train service. And then 17% each said more affordable fares and a safer system. Thank you for that feedback. We really appreciate it. And I'll do a quick reminder to press *3 if you'd like to get in the line to ask a question. And now we're going to move on to our next topic and talk about Reimagine RTD, the agency's plan for the next 5 years. Bill Soroy, he's going to come back and provide an update. Bill, go ahead.
Thanks, Roger. So at RTD, we strive to be a strong community partner, and as well as a great value to our customers throughout the region. This is our first strategic priority, customer value, and the Reimagine initiative really falls under this priority. Really, we started this effort a little over 3 years ago, and have been kind of hit with some major challenges with the whole pandemic, and that has really kind of modified how we approach things. And so one of the main efforts of Reimagine, I think, which was referenced earlier by Director Buzek, is our system optimization plan, and that really is looking at how we redesign our services to be more efficient and more cost-effective. I think we were on a path even pre-COVID of an unsustainable future in terms of the level of service we were providing based on the resources that we had. And we started this planning process in an effort to do that. We've just completed the system optimization plan. I think it was referenced earlier. It's a look at our next 5 years for service and how we can bring back service that in terms of most efficiently and what we can really try to accomplish in the next 5 years. One of the things that we know that we aren't going to be able to meet everybody's needs, because I do think we've heard a lot tonight for people saying about missing services, and I think Sage talked about some of our challenges on the workforce side, which is really driving a lot of our decisions now. But the system optimization plan does lay out a path forward. And again, dealing with our first challenge right now, which is our workforce, and getting the drivers and mechanics and other support people on board so we can throw out more service is really our first priority. But we do expect that this, like I said, this system optimization plan will go before the board in July. We will be releasing it later this month, kind of the final version of that for people to start taking a look at, and then it will be taken to board consideration in the July board meeting cycle. And potentially then, if the board adopts it, will kind of be our guide for the next 5 years for how we lay out service. In addition to that, the Reimagine process does address kind of our long-term needs through our mobility plan for the future. And that really is looking at how we need to grow and evolve as an agency to meet kind of the growing and changing needs of mobility in this region. It's a real challenge. And it is, the way this pandemic has affected people's driving habits, in terms of their work schedules. It is a major challenge for how transit and what role transit is going to play in that future. And so we're going to be, through that mobility plan for the future, addressing some key policy areas and providing that information for the board as we look at making decisions in the future. So that will be coming out as well in July. So we look forward to engaging the board on that as well.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Let's go back to some questions and start with Jesse. Go ahead, Jesse.
Just wondering if the lines will be extended out north, south, east, and west. It's kind of a hindrance, yeah.
Especially with all the new developments that they've been adding as well. It really makes it hard for all the people in Aurora and Erie and Dacono and even the up-and-coming developments. So we're just wondering what kind of services you have out there, and if there's any options to expand the train north from the airport, also to Red Rocks, as that's much needed all the time, and to Colorado Mills, and building the Arvada line out to Golden, and also the 30th and Downing to the airport line as well.
So, Roger, this is Bill. I think I can address that, address Jesse's question. So, part of, our effort as part of Reimagine, we are looking at our long-term plans. And you may or may not know, we do have the Fast Tracks program, which was passed in 2004, and there's several remaining elements of that program that we have not built. And, our challenges right now is we do not have the resources to build those anytime soon. So we have 4 additions, one of which you mentioned, which is the extension from 30th and Downing up to the A line at 38th and Blake. We have the North Metro line, or the N line extension up to 162nd, and then the completion of the B line, and then the extension down south in Littleton Highlands Ranch of the D line. All of those, again, are part of that plan. We are real challenged right now to try to find the resource to do that. So, one of the things that we've addressed in Reimagine is looking at our long-term, is looking at resources, and, the idea that maybe we need more resources. And so we're going to be looking at those kind of things with the board as time goes on. And I think, looking at those and hopefully being able to address that Fast Tracks completion, which I know there's a lot of concern about there out in the region about that completion of that program that was, passed so long ago.
Thank you, Bill. Let's hear from Richard next. Go ahead, Richard.
Hi. So this weekend, Union Station is being closed down due to, quote, federally required testing. So, full disclosure, I'm a rail systems engineer by trade. To close an entire train station down for the weekend when we're kind of not aware of any big upgrade or installation or commissioning sounds somewhat unusual. Can anybody shed some more detailed light on what is actually the reason why we have a Denver's main train station is in or out of action this weekend.
Sounds like you've stumped folks, Richard.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Roger, this is Bill. Maybe we need to take Richard's information down and investigate with some people that are in the know about this issue, and we can get back to you about the reasons why it's being closed.
I didn't see a media release, so who knows? We'll find out, Richard, and let you know. All right, let's move along. Natalie, I subscribe to RTD service alerts, and sometimes there are cancellations of my routes. I guess Natalie is not on the call tonight, so who's going to take that? Sage?
Yep, that's me. Roger, RTD does its best to ensure that all scheduled trips run. But when a schedule adjustment needs to be made, we work to make sure it is as least disruptive as possible. When making real-time adjustments, we do not cancel back-to-back trips, and we do not cancel the final trip of the evening so that people can get back home on the last route, even if other runs were canceled. I would encourage all customers to enroll in service alerts for the buses and trains that they take most frequently. We also recently updated our service alert system, which you may not be aware that we even have. Now, when a customer signs up, they're notified via text or email in real time when a schedule adjustment is made. Customers can also use the RTD Next Ride and Trip Planner functions on our website to plan alternative trips.
Right. Thank you for that. One of our crack staff members, Pauline, said it's a federally required testing at DUS this weekend. So thank you for that information. All right, let's ask our fourth survey question. Again, use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response or click or enter your response online. Here's our question. How satisfied are you with RTD's services overall? Press 1 for very satisfied, press 2 for satisfied, press 3 for somewhat dissatisfied, and press 4 for very dissatisfied. Director, we're getting a little short on time. What else would you like to share with our listeners tonight about RTD or your district specifically?
Sure. Thanks, Roger. A couple things important to note in the district. Let me give you an update on the end line and some of the things that people have complained about in the past is the reliability, drop runs and late runs and things like that. So I'll start by giving you some of the good news. The end line on-time performance this year through May has been 92%, and we've also operated 96% of our scheduled trips. As of the recent numbers from May, we are also 20 months injury-free. I also get a lot of questions about the 122X, and this is a service out of the Wagon Road Park and Ride at 120th and I-25 that goes down I-25 and ends up at the Civic Center station. Now that route was shut down during the pandemic. People have been asking when it's coming back and what can they do. In the interim, what's been happening is there's also a service known as the 120X, which takes you from that same Wagon Road Park and Ride down to Denver Union Station. And from there, people can get off and take the free mall ride down 16th Street to get to the Civic Center station. It's not exactly the same, and it's a two-seat ride, and in bad weather, it's kind of a pain. So we understand it. So the 122X, my understanding, is slated to come back. But of course, just like some of the Flatiron Flyer routes on US 36, it's the people problem and getting operators and so forth in order to be able to bring those routes back. So we're continuing to monitor those, and I'm constantly pushing on staff to give me updates and let me know when we can expect some of these services to come back. So that's what I have for my local update right now. And I think if we want to go to another question, if we have time, that'd be great, or whatever you want to do, Roger.
We do. Thank you, Director. Here's a question from Cody online. He said, I've missed the Flatiron Flyer because it was full during a sporting event, I guess a Rockies game. Are there event-related plans to increase the amount of people that can ride?
Cody. This is Sage Thornbrew in Service Development. I can kind of speak to that a little bit. The Rockies Ride and Run Ride and all those sorts of services were one of those, or they were the types of services that were really taken into consideration during COVID, because as our driver shortage, the situation worsened and ridership dropped and all these sorts of things, it became apparent that we weren't going to be able to justify fulfilling those services when we have people who can't even, whose buses and trains, as we've been talking about so far, were not showing up because the drivers were already overworked. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that while we know that there is demand for services like the Rockies Ride, especially for people up in Longmont and things like that, it's really hard to justify bringing services like that in for one-off services, what are considered special services, because we already have such a struggle trying to get drivers to fill the regular work that happens on a daily basis. And I don't know if anybody else wants to speak to the discussions that the directors had back in the beginning of COVID, but that's what I can say from my perspective.
Thanks for that, Sage. And this is Vince Buzek again. So yeah, COVID kind of changed the whole playing field for us. And, as Sage was indicating, it's really an equity issue, right? So we've got people that are challenged, that are transit dependent and need service to get to their jobs. And if we're going to run a Rockies Ride or a Broncos Ride, we need to remove buses from services those people depend upon to get to work, so people can get to their $900 avalanche seats. It's tough. And again, with the challenge of our operator shortage and so forth, those services are kind of on the back burner for now.
If you got tickets for $900, you got to steal, directors, from what I understand. So thank you for that information. Here are the results of our last survey question. Again, we asked, how satisfied are you with RTD services overall? I'm pleased to see this. 55% said you're satisfied, 27% said somewhat dissatisfied, and 18% said very satisfied. So we really appreciate that. We are at the end of our hour. Director, any final thoughts, closing remarks?
Yeah, thanks, Roger, for hosting and running this. Thanks, everybody, for listening in. Thanks for the questions. We really appreciate that. I'm always here. My info is on the RTD website. Call me, email me. I'm hopefully fairly responsive. And just want you to know that I'm focused on restoration of service, improvement of reliability, and continuing to work on what our general manager calls our people power problem, getting people back on board. I hope that our collective bargaining agreement will assist us in recruiting, in retaining, and potentially recalling people that used to work for RTD, so that we can start restoring service and improving reliability. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Director. We are sorry if we did not get to your question tonight, but you can still leave us a message, question, or comment. Just stay on the line and you'll be directed to a voicemail system. On behalf of Director Vince Buzek, our panelists tonight, and the hardworking public servants at RTD, thank you for taking part in this conversation, and have a great evening.